Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 806 with a review of Weapons. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we are sitting down to talk about a little film called Weapons. Maybe a week or two late, but we're excited to talk about it. Stephen, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. We are late because I contracted the not so novel anymore, kind of like the hack coronavirus. You know, the coronavirus sequel just refuses to die. Should have been canceled seasons ago. But I really wanted to catch Weapons. Well, what's funny is first I really didn't want to catch Weapons. I was hoping I could find an excuse not to watch it. I even had a plan where Chris would watch it first and then tell me if it was scary or not, and I would use that to decide if we would do a review of it. But then, unfortunately, it started to get a lot of buzz online. Like, people outside of just horror people were talking about it, and I was like, fuck, I have to see it. And then immediately I got COVID, and so it delayed by a week. But We're here, we're talking about it. I did sit through it, and I am not afraid to be alone, I don't think. So it didn't fuck me up the way that Bring Her Back did, so that's good at least. Yeah,
well, I mean, you also don't have little kids running around Naruto style around your house. So,
yeah, that's true.
So that helps, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, that definitely is convenient.
Yeah, or maybe you did have a bunch of little kids running around and now they're all gone.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
All right.
Yeah. What is the improv rule?
Yeah, you're supposed to
say nothing and make the bit die immediately.
Oh.
Thank you. Next.
All right. Well, Stephen, you were excited to see the film. Are you excited to talk about it right now?
I am. Yeah, I am.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and play the trailer for Weapons and then come back and give everybody a review.
This is a true story that happened in my town. So this one Wednesday is like a normal day for the whole school. But today was different. Every other class had all their kids. But Mrs. Gandy's room was totally empty. And you know why? Because the night before, at 2:17 in the morning, every kid woke up, got out of bed, walked downstairs, and into the dark. And they never came back.
I don't understand at all. Why just her classroom? Why only hers?
Where are our children?
We have a lot of emotional parents here. I think it's best if you keep some distance from this place.
Matthew, where are you? Where did you go?
This is where the story really starts.
All right, so that was the trailer for Weapons. It is a story of one day a teacher, her entire class doesn't show up the next day at school. And it's about how the community, the neighbors, the school all deal with the fact that all these children are missing and what the hell could have happened. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Weapons?
I had a blast with Weapons. I thought this movie was super, super effective. Very, very, very much like Barbarian. This is clearly, Zach Cregger's style is to make a movie that shapeshifts every time you think you know what it's going to do next, and then play with reveals in a way that are like shocking but also fun and kind of feel like you're on a roller coaster. That was my experience of Weapons. I can't say I had like an intensely profound experience. I do think the overhype is not great for this movie, because this is not the sort of, quote, elevated horror where it's like, wow, this is so deeply about a thing that it's going to have you pondering it forever. This is a thrill ride, first and foremost. We can talk about it. I do think you can read it as being about things, but it is not like a mournful, horrific anything. It is a fairy tale, right? Like a monster movie, and it gets sillier and sillier in a very entertaining way as it goes along. And I think the director is just so good at teasing those out. I mean, the movie the trailer promised me was really fucking creepy. That movie was like, this horrific thing happens with the disappearance of children, and as we unwind it, like unravel the thread, we are just going to see more and more creepy evils lurking at the heart of the town. And like, that is there, and I don't want to spoil the movie too much, except to say that this is not about some generic evil. This is about a very specific evil, and there's something about that was both it relieved me because it inoculated me from having like nights of sleep ruined. But I don't know. It's a different movie than the one I was promised, but it's a movie that I had so much fun with. I think like the imagery of the children leaving, you say Naruto style. I would say as the movie goes on, it becomes a little bit more of that. But like the fast forward, rewind kind of spookiness of a child like floating out the room is very uncanny and is disturbing. Yeah. And I think this movie has so much fun in the first third, I would say, playing with the idea of how does a city or a town, how does the public cope with tragedy? What do they do? How do they turn against each other? How do they look in the wrong directions? And then just when it feels like that idea is going to be a little bit tired or worn through, it, much like Barbarian having a hard cut, this is like, okay, now I'm going to give you another perspective and another and another and another, and just watching those perspectives get layered together, and each time it is building one new piece, and so you go like, oh, I get what you're doing, and also where the fuck are we going from here? Just intensely satisfying movie. Like I just had a blast with this thing. I think if I have criticisms of this movie, and they're pretty minor, one is, I'm not saying this had to be scary. Like, again, I say this all the time. As a horror wimp, I often think if a movie wasn't scary, it means it somehow didn't work on me. And I know that's like a rookie way of thinking about horror. That isn't really how fans see it. But I do think it suffers from what Jaws managed to avoid, which is when you see the big bad, the tension basically disappears. At least for me. Like there's fun to be revealed in how the evil works, but in terms of that like sensation of fuck, what is going on, it goes away when you see it in the light of day in a way that to me didn't. The energy stopped building for a period of maybe 20 minutes, like toward the later part of the movie, when I was like, okay, well now like we already know what this is, and now I'm just watching like a zany movie, watching it get to its conclusion. It didn't like gnaw at my psyche the way earlier parts of it did. Again, I don't even know if that's a criticism. This movie can be a roller coaster. That's totally fine. But it's something that it made it slightly less effective on me. And then another one is, I do think this movie's bookended with narration. It's a minor quibble. It's not a big deal. But the narrator opens the movie and the narrator closes the movie. In both times, very key things are revealed. At the close, I would say like very horrific stuff is revealed that makes you think differently about the movie. But It's played so quietly and quickly and then tossed aside. It's like it doesn't have the heft that it should. So there's something kind of weird in the editing of that, but these are like minor nitpicks in a movie that was otherwise like so much fucking fun. Like I have not enjoyed a horror movie this much in a really, really, really long time. Probably not since Barbarian. How about you? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, from the start, I'm going to say that I had a lot of fun with this film because I want to make sure I get that out. I'm not going to criticize the film a lot, but I'm still sort of in real time while I was watching it. I was sort of kind of like, I'm having so much fun, but something in the back of my head is just holding me at arm's length from the film. And I just want to make sure that I say I had an amazing time with it. I think this is a really fun thrill ride, and I loved watching it. There was just something about it that it was forcing me to analyze it. And some of the things that you articulated, I don't even necessarily agree with you 100% on, but it might. I think we were looking at some of the similar things. Like, for me, seeing what the evil is in the light of day, and I think you were probably talking slightly metaphorically about big and light of day, but also literally in cases. For me, once the specific evil is revealed, in a way, it was more terrifying because not for me, the individual, but for the people interacting with the evil. And it was just like there's something about the nature of it that made it twice as terrifying now. Because before, it was anything could be the answer. And once you knew it, that answer was somehow more terrifying to me. But part of the thing that I struggle with is I still felt that level of deflation, even though to me, the true evil was more scary in concept. The way it played with the environment and the way it interacted with people was kind of a terrifying concept to me. But at the same time, as I said, I was sort of like, okay, so there is an answer. And it's like, you know, there are a lot of themes you could read into this film. And this is one of those things where the having the answer kind of goes against the metaphor. Like the metaphor is, how could this happen? And what is there an answer to just this chaos that we are all living through?
Yeah.
And this film says, yeah, there's an answer. Here it is. And that kind of actively works against the idea of events like this can't be explained and there's no way to explain them. But the film explains the event, right? So there is something about what this film is doing that I kind of like struggled with on like some sort of cognitive level of like, I love every second, every minute of runtime I am really, really enjoying. But then I'm conceptualizing what I'm watching and I'm like, I don't know if I think this is doing what I want this to do. There was something about the experience that kind of pulled me in two different directions. But everything that we watch is really, really interesting. And for me, you know, we talk about, like, when you talk about things that scare you, for me, it's always like a cerebral thing where it's like, if I extrapolate what I'm watching to the greater world, that's what that scares me as a person watching something. And this film has that to a T. Like everything this film does in that level of building a world in which I think about the ramifications of what's going on, and just everything that this film was bringing to make me think about, I really enjoyed. Something about it sort of just left me wondering, like, would this film even work linearly instead of this chopped up way of revealing bit by bit? And I think the story doesn't have enough there to not require this chopped up different vantage point sort of thing. It's like everything this film is bringing requires you to only get one piece at a time and then have the next little bit revealed as an even stranger thing that's happening and then an even stranger thing. And it's like if you watch this purely as a linear, these all events took place in this order and everybody is consuming it in real time, I don't know if this film would work. But this is the film they made, so it's supposed to work in that split apart way. It's just there's something about it that makes me wonder.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. To me, that same wondering, though, is the dazzling part of this movie is like the construction of it, the structure of it is awesome. And it is designed to only work that way.
Yeah.
Like to trickle information and reveal more on each successive pass in a way that doesn't get stale, but does A, dilate time, and then also B, make sure that the order that you receive things maximizes the suspense and the delight, rather than if it all happened, first of all, I think this is a movie that we should probably get to spoilers to earlier rather than later, because it's just too hard to talk around anything. But I would say there is a moment that time-wise, like if you just zoom out and think about the linear time of the movie, happens with Benedict Wong that a lot of the themes of this movie would disappear if that were just like presented very early in the runtime and all characters know about it, and then we are living in that universe.
Yeah.
You know, like it needs to exist in this way where it can like go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to pile it on. I also think yes, this movie is playing with the idea of how do you metabolize the fact that horrible things happen for no reason, you know? And then the movie does not pay that off because there is a reason. Yeah. There is a thing in this case. I do think it is still playing with other kind of horrors, though, around harm done to children and how do you grapple with that and how easy is it to ignore that even when it's staring you right in the face. And we can maybe talk a little bit about that, too. Like, I think it isn't about what it feels like it's going to be about at the beginning, but I think it is about something. And so I appreciated that also. I also, before we get to spoilers, at least, I just want to say, like, the cast is so great in this movie. Like, Julia Garner is so good in the role that she has to play, where you sympathize with her, but you also can see why people would be suspicious of her, and her character has enough flaws put in place to make you kind of question her judgment. Josh Brolin gets to be this sort of, I'm going to say a little bit dumb man's, like not dumb, but he's shallow. He's brute force. He thinks of things a certain way. Even the way his dreams and visions of evil have the most like dumb tactile idea of what evil would look like.
Yeah.
But he's just really good here. I love me some Alden Ehrenreich, and he's just so delightfully smarmy as the cop in this movie. Like, just everyone does an awesome job, and it was just so much fun to play in this sandbox, even if it didn't amount to something that is like a grand statement about how it feels to live today or whatever. It was just like a fucking joy to experience in real time.
I do want to say something, and it is sort of just like a tee up for our spoiler conversation, or for a topic we can have in the spoiler section. But I know this is not the point of the film, but would you agree that these are some of the worst investigators in the history of missing children cases ever? Like, I feel like there is some stuff that the film tries to answer a little bit, at least. Like there's like half the movie I was like, why would this not be taking place right now? And then they kind of do like some flashback stuff and some of the alternate views to kind of explain why maybe they wouldn't. But for me, there was something where I was like at the point where a character is grabbing like city maps and trying to draw lines. I'm like, nobody else tried to draw lines.
Like, there is, I believe there is an argument for why this is true that relates to kind of the other reading of the film, the defense of the film, and we can get into it. But I'll also tee up that Emily St. James wrote like a great newsletter about this a couple days ago, and that is where I'm cribbing a lot of my interpretation. Okay. But we can talk about it. I think there's an argument that that's a feature, not a bug, that the everyone in the town is so fucking bad at investigating this. They are angry in the abstract, but not in a way where they care enough to look into the obvious red flags that are happening everywhere.
Yeah. And I can extrapolate with the use of the word red flag. but for me, it was just one of those things where I was like, I don't know, like, you know, in any other, there is something that's happening. You would, like, there are certain, like, if you have any thing that is out of the ordinary, you would investigate that thing to the furthest level you could. And I think there are things where I would just imagine somebody going like, no one's gonna check that thing out. But it would be a different movie, I guess, if that took place.
Yep.
All right, well, enough of the non-spoiler stuff. Should we give people a verdict and then mosey on into spoilers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Stephen Miller, if you were going to give us a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm going must-see, even though I have, like, very light criticisms-ish. Like, I wish this were not praised as a masterpiece of filmmaking or whatever, because I just think that it is not the kind of movie that should have to sustain that sort of hype. But all that aside, I do think this movie is an easy must-see. Like, it's awesome. It is a great time. It's riveting. The filmmaking is just incredibly well done. The screenplay is really, really, really clever in how it's structured. It gives you visuals that stick with you for a while. I think lots of core ideas of this movie are really smart. I think the ending visual is also very cathartic and fucking rules. It leaves you on a high note, and it just all around, I think this movie gives you what you want, much like Barbarian does. I think you will not be disappointed if you go watch this in theaters.
Yeah. As I said, I had a lot of fun with this film, and I think it's pretty great for what it's doing. So it's going to be a must-see for me as well. But it's still a thing that I've been dealing with in the back of my head since I've seen it, and not in the I just can't stop thinking about it. But it's if I mention that I've seen it and somebody's like, oh, what'd you think of that? And I'm like, I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah. And
that's how it goes until Steven's like, I can now record. Let's talk about it. So that's it. 2 must-sees, some slight reservations, but not enough to caveat our recommendations of the film. So check it out if you haven't already. We're going to say goodbye now and move on into spoilers. Stephen Miller, people want to find you throughout the week. Where can they do that?
People can find me at Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. That music is going to fade up, and when that music fades out, 17 children will be missing, and we're going to talk about why. Okay, we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of our review of Weapons. Stephen Miller, full-blown spoilers. Where would you like to start?
I guess we can start with the kind of obvious, the showing of the evil. So, because there's a few things I could have been referring to. Basically, I think the first time we get a real reveal that says this is the sort of thing that is happening, we get a hint of it during a creepy scene when Julia Garner is asleep in her car, and then this mother waltzes out of the house in that same marionette way. I wouldn't say she's not quite Naruto. She's still being dragged by her arms by some invisible thing. But she's more of a creepy Carrie's mom type of behavior, I think. Like the gone mad. But it really is when we see Benedict Wong suddenly charge at Julia Garner and attack her nonstop over and over again forever. Yeah. That becomes, in terms of the reveal of what is happening, that becomes a very clear reveal of, oh, someone is controlling these people. And you don't necessarily know yet, is this one person doing it, or is it the equivalent of the rage virus as a metaphor for societal collapse or something, But so that's one.
I was going to say, it's like giving the It Follows, the 28 Days Later treatment. It's yes. What if it follows but fast?
Exactly. And I love that reveal. To me, that didn't deflate any tension. It would in the world if it were a linear story, because by then no one can argue. No one can believe Julia Garner did this anymore. Everyone knows oh, some supernatural shit is happening.
But that's the most beautiful. Sorry, not to digress, but that's the most beautiful part about it is Josh Brolin is basically screaming at her metaphorically, if not fully. I mean, he's trying to not fully scream, but he's basically berating her, and she sees Benedict Wong running from out of the corner. And she can't even tell him to look, because she's just what is, I don't even know what is he running at me? Is he okay? It's this moment of sheer, craziness that happens, and then Josh Brolin is like, what the fuck? He doesn't know what's going on. So it's a pretty incredible moment.
Yeah, and it's such a great moment to just the visual is awesome. You know, it's awesome as a creepy thing happening in the distance as he suddenly comes closer into the foreground. That's more like the horror way of viewing it. And then later when we revisit it, it's wonderful as the, like, we are in full on fucking lunatic mode. Yeah. You know, it manages to do both. And it speaks to a thing that the movie does really well over and over again, which every time there's a new story, it ends on a moment that makes you connect to something that happened before and tease up what will happen again in the future. Like, another one of those I loved is us seeing the junkie guy approaching the police station. Yeah. And then Alden Ehrenreich starts chasing him. And right there, you already know, you know, something bad is going to happen to Alden for that reason. You know, Paul, I think, is the character's name. But then also, when we see the junkie later, from his perspective, early in his version of events, we're like, oh, fuck, that's why he was going to the police station. Yeah. Look at how badly Paul fucked everything up. But anyway, that's all just an aside. Love that. No complaints. When I talk about the tension being deflated, it is when we learn about the witch in particular. When we see her, we see how she operates. You know, we see the kind of hex that she's conducting by taking an item of value of a person and wrapping it around and then using hair and snapping a twig. Like, I like that visual. I have no problem with it. Like, the witchy stuff, it puts us in the realm of we are in a creepy, horrific fairy tale of some sort, you know? But in that moment, the moment I know her as the cause of all of this, rather than some, like, omnipresent demonic force or whatever, for me, it's like I could turn off whatever parts of me even made me think I'm going to be scared by this movie. And I was like, for the rest of this movie, I will just be watching some silly fucking thing, you know? And that isn't meant to diminish it. It's just, for me, that removes all fear. And I'm curious for you how it doesn't, or if that's not what you were referring to when you said that, like, for you, it becomes more scary when you know the cause. So
No. So it's after I know the cause becomes more scary, but it's not that I'm more. So basically, the next flash where you see what happens to Benedict Wong, and she shows up, and you're like, oh fuck, and then when you see them just being like, why is this strange woman in her house? What's going on? And she starts to do the incantation, and you're like, no, like, that's when it's terrifying. It's because she's so disarming in her, like, peculiarness that, like, there's something about her that terrifies me to, like, no end, right? Just the idea that somebody can, it's you know, I feel like I've made this reference before in, like, a million years ago, but, like, when you watch those street performers who come up to you on the street and, like, just feed you with inputs about, like, oh, up on the street, you're going over there, and then they steal your watch and your phone and your wallet, and then they're like, oh, I got all your shit, right? And they are feeding you enough information that your brain can't handle it. She has that sort of ability where she can be doing something that's clearly sinister, but it's so strange that the people are disarmed from being able to react to it, because they're like, yeah, I guess I'll give you a bowl, and then you're doing what now? And you're just putting stuff, you know, it becomes a thing where the idea that somebody could be that terrifying in the presence of somebody, and you're just letting it happen. And, you know, maybe this is going to go to some of those metaphors we're going to talk about later, but like, there's something about that to me was just kind of terrifying, right? It would be like if I was on a bus in the city and somebody was, like, eating another person in the back of the bus, but I was just like, just don't make eye contact. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm not reacting appropriately to something that is clearly terrifying because I'm just confused by what is going on. And that to me is sort of like where the terror becomes heightened in the story. I still think it's scary when we don't know. It could be anything. It could be a literal unanswerable question, which metaphorically, most cases it is. But this film's like, well, that wouldn't be satisfying. for us to end this movie and say that, well, there's no reason any of this shit happened. So the movie has to have a reason. And so I get why it completely deflates for you. But for me, it's like, oh, it's almost weirder now that it's this creepy clown lady who is behind it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this movie didn't have to be scary, so it's fine. I'm trying to grapple with why such a creepy seeming movie was so not actually frightening for me, having watched it. But yeah, so I guess we can dive into what you just hinted at, which is the thesis of what this movie can be about, which kind of makes it similar to Bring Her Back. There's actually a handful of ways that this is similar to Bring Her Back. Like, I'm thinking about the scene where Benedict Wong beats like his partner's face in until it's just like a pulp.
Yeah.
And like that kind of grotesque over the topness, how that kind of mirrors the kid gnawing on the knife in Bring Her Back too, of just like what happens if someone is so not in control of who they are. But another aspect of Bring Her Back is there is this kid at the house who is mute and clearly traumatized and fucked up in some way. And we are meant as an audience or as the other people to just allow for that to be, for a while, of just don't pry, don't ask questions, don't dig in, he just is that way. It's okay. And then over the course of the movie, you realize there's this like deep, intense, horrible thing happening to him, And I think the read of this movie is that you can see it as being about child abuse in particular, and the way it becomes this hush-hush thing that everyone knows someone 1 or 2 degrees removed who are affected by this. And you all know, like, this is really like quoting Emily St. James' words, like, like the house that doesn't seem quite right, or the family that seems off, or the kid that seems particularly quiet or sad, but you don't want to pay attention to it. Like, peers don't look at it, adults don't look at it. Maybe if you're lucky, a teacher will notice it. And that's about it, is a teacher will be invested enough to ask those kind of questions, but law enforcement doesn't care. The adults don't care. And even in this modern time where everyone is suddenly obsessed theoretically with child abuse in this like Epstein, QAnon-y ambient type way, they still don't care about the version that happens all around them. They funnel that in the wrong direction into town halls and political anger and violence rather than actually protecting kids. And I think that argument is pretty strong as being the coherent thread that makes the movie make sense in terms of what is it metaphorically about. And also the joy at the end of the movie of watching the kids chase after this woman and tear her limb from limb. It is so much that rush of like watching the abuser finally get brought to justice by the people who she hurt, and there's, that's something that I tapped into even watching it, it's like, why does it feel so good watching them chase her right now? Yeah. It doesn't feel good because I'm watching like a monster in a fairy tale get their comeuppance. It feels emotional, in a way that feels like a symbol. So anyway, I think this isn't like a super nuanced or subtle read of the movie. Like, obviously that's in the stew, that's in the mix of the movie anyway. Just the idea of a horrible thing happening to kids. You can think of Uvalde or a bunch of other things too that I think at least at first the movie is closer to, like the do nothing cops and the parents trying to deal with their grief. But yeah, it's about the willful ignorance to something is clearly wrong, but I don't want to offend that person. I don't want to rock the boat. This house is boarded up. And if you peek inside, you see fucking creepy people sitting there. This kid is like mute and won't talk about anything. Why is no one digging in? Why is no one going there and doing more? Well, and the answer is like, if they don't have to, they won't.
but that's the thing is, so the film knows the specific thing about the creepy ass house thing, and it tries to correct it with one of the flashbacks being like, well, we cleaned the house up for one time the police showed up, time the police came by, and as soon as the police were done being there, then we creeped the fuck out of the house. And I think that was one of the things where like Josh Brolin draws 2 lines that intersect and goes like, must be one of these houses. And I'm like, nobody else did like did they all run the same direction? Where did they go? Like, it seems like, especially in a world where like this film is like, we have ring cams. We can see all the children leaving. But yeah, everybody has ring cams. They didn't aggregate that data and plot a map of where all the kids were running to. And I know technically that doesn't make sense because even if they're running in a straight line, they can't literally run through buildings. So they have to
and
bob and
that's
weave
one
and
thing
stuff
where
like
the
that.
visual language of the film shows them all weaving and joining on the streets and stuff too. So that, I actually like, I guess the Josh Brolin argument only makes sense if you assume a supernatural thing is happening, right? Of like the heading, the thing they're pointing at when they leave the house, you know, and they're terrible cops. Don't get me wrong. The investigators are garbage, but I can imagine a world where they check all the boxes and follow all the leads, but they assume any parent is just being overreacting or something by like focusing on these threads. And I think early in the movie, we are meant to feel that way too about Josh Brolin. Like, I think it rings some humor, right? From him asking for ring footage and then pulling out a map and being like, look what he's pointing at. Let me stand here and do the same. Like, it's funny because the movie kind of has its cake and eats it too, where I feel like it makes fun of that desire to draw patterns and find meaning from the nothingness. And then later it makes that pattern actually be there. So it's almost like a wish fulfillment of like, you wish there were a clean reason why shitty things happen. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I personally believe, you know, putting aside the fact that Josh Brolin his character is a little too aggro in this film, I feel like parents would want to work together. Like maybe if a super aggro dad who yelled at a teacher in a like school assembly, whatever that gathering was. I was going to say press conference, but it was really just the principal and the teacher and family, I guess. Were there cops at that assembly? I don't remember.
I don't remember. Someone escorted her out, but it might have just been security. I'm not sure.
But like for me, it's like I feel like people in that community would want to come together and at least talk about like why does weird fucking shit happen. And yeah, it's interesting that like, you know, you're keen on the child abuse thing. So I think a lot of people are talking about it as like a school shooting sort of scenario. Just the idea that
clearly
like,
what it's playing with at the beginning. Like, that's what it wants you to think about.
Yeah, which is like, hey, there are some times where it's unexplainable that kids are here today and gone tomorrow. And I think that, you know, the film is obviously, it's like playing with things that are like literally mass child events and then things that are like isolated events of one person tucked away in a place that you can't like see them interact with. And it's like all those metaphors are there and they're interesting to reckon with and deal with. But it's like, in the end, it's just a witch that's doing all this stuff, which kind of undercuts the message of what the film is trying to do.
And the witch does fit with the metaphor, at least, right? She's, I mean, I don't think she's actually a family member. I assume she's posing, but still, it's the idea of like this family member that enters the house and gains closeness and then, you know, does terrible things, but then makes you feel like you can't share that information with anyone. Like, there's a lot of kind of one-to-one analogies that you can draw there, but still, it's just a witch, and that means the witch can be torn apart. And then, but that's the also brutal thing hiding at the end of this movie is the voiceover narration, where she's like, some of us even started talking again. Like, it isn't like everything got better. You know, they're like completely traumatized, and like, even her voice, the thing that I felt like was annoying sound design, like she's so quiet in the mix because she probably is still like semi-zombie state, like dispassionate and barely there, you know? And there's, I don't know. It's something interesting, and it almost feels like the movie bailed out of being depressing at the end because they like didn't want audiences to be bummed. Yeah. But it kind of has a darkness there.
They didn't want to take away from your celebration of, also, I love the idea that, so they just like eviscerate this woman, and like when Josh Brolin comes to get his kids, like they're bloody, but there's no remnants left of the woman. So it's like in my head, Josh Brolin is like, oh weird, you must have really hurt the lady, but maybe she got away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he just, or no? Do you see the body
like
laying?
Maybe
you see like
a severed something.
Okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, he doesn't like react to the presence of her body. At least, right? She just grabs his kid and like walks away. Which maybe that's the way it happens in real life when you're reunited with a child that you think might be gone forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of funny that it's just like a bunch of kids that were screaming and celebrating, and now they're just standing mute and traumatized, looking over like this body that they just decimated.
I love too the comedy of this movie. It's a very funny movie, but especially towards the end, like once they get to the house, Josh Brolin and Julia Garner, and like the addict guy, Austin Abrams, he just he keeps coming, and Josh Brolin has to beat him just like 20 times, and he's like, "Motherfucker, Jesus Christ, die already! Stop coming!"
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you said you weren't scared about this film, but did you at least momentarily, like, heart flutter when he steps over the salt or the whatever the line is? Just because that's a good jump scare. Like, you know it's going to happen, but it's so aggressive that you're like, Jesus Christ.
It has great jump scares. This is one of the first times I remember a movie making me like jump scares. And maybe it's because by the time they really start coming, there are a few that it was still when it was in what I would call creepy, scary horror mode, like toward the beginning when Julia Garner's alone at the house and there's like the bangs at the door. Those were the kind I don't like, because I was still scared. But by the later part of the film, it has these creepy moments, but I already knew nothing is going to hurt me. So I could just like enjoy the ride for what it was. Like that jump was great. Another jump that was really great is when Josh Brolin is in the basement looking for his son among all the kids. And he like gets to see a few of them, and then he like turns and the witch is just there. And that's another like type of moment that I definitely leapt out of my seat during. But I leapt out like laughing. It's funny.
Yeah. Do you think that the witch's ultimate demise is just because she had the Bond villain problem, where she had to explain the whole plan and how everything's gonna work?
Yeah. It didn't help. But also, and look, I don't claim to be an expert in, the dark arts. I don't practice magic myself.
Yeah, you're more of like a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not Slytherin. But hair is important for this spell, it seems. And do you think magic is fooled by wigs? Because I know there is a part of it where an object belonging to a person, that is how you control them.
Yeah.
But hair is how you make them the target. And I mean, first of all, I love that the movie did it. I loved when I could see what the little kid was doing and everything. It's awesome. I have no real complaint about this. But in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, but that's a wig. That ain't real.
But the wig was her object, right?
Yeah, but the object is what makes someone controllable. I don't think the movie has established that an object makes them a target of the weapons. I think we've only seen hair. She clips Julia Garner's hair. She clips the hair of B.D. Wong's husband or partner.
Oh, wait. Doesn't he... I don't think he grabs one from the wig. I think he grabs one from the net inside. Like, I think he, flips it open and he, finds a little thing.
Okay, maybe. Okay, smart kid.
Because she wasn't fully... She was just kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, she was dying.
It kind of... Yeah. In true witch-like fashion, I feel like her visible decay or age fluctuates a ton.
Yeah.
Depending on, I guess, what life forces she's feeding off of. It's another thing that I'm fine with the movie not explaining, but I wonder what we are meant to believe she was doing in the basement. Like, is it just their presence gives her that, or is there something where she is slowly eating away at their life, and at a certain point they would die because she's taking all of it?
Yeah. So the way I kind of extrapolated from the film is she slowly siphons life from something, and she was dying faster than she could get from the parents. And based on the parents' ages, maybe she could only siphon so much at a time. It's like some sort of scale that determines how much life force you can suck from a being based on how much life force they've already spent on the planet.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if two middle-aged adults can't reverse how much I'm doing. What if I had 17 kids? So it's just like she has a bunch of sliders and 17 kids just pushes all the sliders to max. It's like you can have it fast, cheap, and good.
Yep.
So that was kind of the way I interpret. Also, clearly you still needed to feed the bodies because you're leeching it off, but the body needs to replenish, right? It's you know, it's like the Matrix. You basically you got to keep them fed and plugged into the system. So
Yeah, they need soup.
yeah, so Campbell's soup can sustain, you know, a child in elementary school more than it can a full-grown adult, right?
Yeah.
So
Though I don't know, it seemed to have worked for the parents, at least for the 30 days or however long it's been.
not enough, right? Because that's why. I mean, like, she's not gonna give up.
Oh, I see. You're
on
saying they are surviving, but it isn't giving enough life force.
Yeah. So it's like she needs to supercharge it with 17 children. So that's just yeah. What if the real metaphor is the uber rich with their blood bags?
Okay, just a final thought, a detail. I love both times Alden Ehrenreich gets poked with a needle. I just loved it. Like because the first time, you know, we already don't like him at this point, but we don't like hate him necessarily. But the first time, it's like, oh shit, that would suck. Like that is tough. But then, like, you know, after he like knocks out the kid, especially, you're kind of like, fuck that guy. And then the second time, just seeing his face like filled with needles is awesome.
Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
Yeah. Guess that's it.
Yeah. I feel good.
I think I'm gonna go crack open a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, I'm hankering for some soup.
Dude, how terrifying is that? Just for all time, you're just hanging out, just feeding soup to ghostly children, just hanging out in your basement.
It seems pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I really liked him. The character of Gladys, like, I haven't even named, like, Amy Madigan is the actress, and she's so good in that role. But especially the disarming weirdness, like when she first talks to Benedict Wong and his partner, and she asks for water, and then she asks for it in a bowl. The movie is in such a place where, like, you might believe she's going to start lapping it like a dog. Like, you truly have no idea what the fuck is going to happen.
But that's what I'm talking about, Steven. That is twice as terrifying to me. Because you're like, a bowl? Oh, no good can come of... Don't give her a bowl.
Right.
Oh, it's good times. Also, it's funny that the bowl is the thing that ends the spell, not the thing that starts it. So it's like, that was just for later... That was the place to put your cigarette out in, right? That wasn't the thing that lights the fire. So it's just,
yeah,
good times.
Good
All
times.
right. That's it. Thanks everybody for listening.
See ya.
We'll see you
next time for highest to lowest, maybe? I don't remember what's coming out.
Well,
we've got at least one or two before TIFF, I think.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Later, everybody.
Right. Bye.
If you're like most homemakers I know, you've got a cupboard full of Campbell's soup. And when you've got a cupboard full of Campbell's soup, you've got a cupboard full of recipes for great economy dishes. Like this...